Hello and welcome to Pints with PALs. I had to read that for some reason. I already forgot. This is episode 1. As you can see by listening to this podcast, it's hard to see. No, we are going to explore some beers today. Well, specifically a beer today. I'm one of your co-hosts. My name's Mike. I am the northernmost host. And I'm here with Jeremy.
Yes, down in good old Tennessee, however you want to say it. down in the Smokies. There you go.
Yep.
So like Mike said, today we're going to be talking about stouts. So I guess I should give like a little brief background of what a stout is. So a stout is typically a dark, bitter beer that has like roasty flavors. It's really well suited for like the winter months. Some will have flavors of chocolate and coffee. The definition says licorice. I've never had one that tasted like licorice before. I've had one that tasted nutty. I have like nut notes to it, but never licorice. So I thought that was pretty interesting when I looked up like the actual definition of it. I know some are creamy because some will use like an oatmeal.
A milk stout,
which is pretty cool. Yeah, milk stout. Yeah, there's that one too.
Yeah, so I think that they use the term stout liberally. Like they basically kind of classify and they're consistently trying to find something in a genre that they can like kind of exploit and like kind of play with, and then find out, like, especially the microbreweries. Well, they're not as small as they used to be, but I feel like you have like up here specifically, you have the Founders and like and all the other ones, Bells and things like that, which are pretty well known, but they are constantly like playing with the flavors and trying new things and putting out stuff that doesn't get distributed. It just gets like stuck in their breweries and stuff. So
yeah,
it's actually and the seasonal too, like a lot of when the seasons change, like stout, you're not going to want a stout, even though I had probably one of the best. It was a donut stout. I went to Blake's, and it was so refreshing. It was so confusing to my brain, but that's the style we want to explore in this episode.
Yeah, because it's still technically winter. I mean, even though like spring is right around the corner, so we're a little late to our beer section because I have a plethora of stouts in my little beer closet. So I'll see how that one's going to work out. I also found that stouts and porters are pretty synonymous of each other. Some people have a hard time telling them apart. So some things that I've come up with is like a porter is usually like a dark brown. Sometimes we'll have like a reddish tint to it. I've not seen too many like that, but I believe it because I've read some recipes and they do use malts that will have like a red hue to them. I
thought the biggest difference between them was that the porter is basically all the same except for it uses malt. They use malt instead of whatever the other sugars, but maybe I'm confused. Instead of hops and barley.
That one I'm not sure of that off the top of my head. I know they're both really good for the winter months.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's fine. Yeah. So the both styles have been around for at least a couple hundred years. I think stouts were first mentioned like in some recipe back in 1677 or something like that, but it didn't really become a thing until like the early 1800s from my little bit of research that I've done, which I thought was pretty interesting. I think stouts were more the poor man's beer, where porters was more the not really richer man's beer, but those more high class, I guess, of England times. So I thought that was pretty neat.
I feel like that kind of stuff switches around. Like when you were fat in like old man time, it means you had money. Now when you're fat, you're considered like the uneducated or whatever.
No, it's true, because you can only afford, if you're low income, you can afford certain types of food, and those foods are not really healthy. So you're not wrong there.
So I guess without further ado, Jeremy was up here 2 weeks ago, and I was able to give him something that I found in the store just so that we had the same one, but we're going to try if we can and drink the same beer at the same time, so we can kind of experience it through each other's noses and mouths. Sorry. But the one we decided to go with is the CEO Stout by Right Brain Brewing. Right Brain Brewery. So here goes. Let's try and yeah, I'm not gonna hear yours because yours is gonna be all done. So here's this.
I tried.
Whoop. Oh, I got it all over everything.
That's a bueno.
Oh yeah. Okay. So let's see.
Oh, wow.
Got a lot of head and a lot of shit all over my keyboard. It wasn't worth it.
So I'm not even. This thing's probably a good about 8 inches from my nose.
Yeah, it's very, very potent.
Very strong, like coffee, like a very strong dark coffee. Maybe even I might say is what espresso. So tell me about this beer a little bit, Mike. I mean, like, so you're the one that found this. Like, where'd you find it at? I mean, have you ever had this kind of beer before, or any of this companies?
No, I was researching at the local grocery store, and this was basically one of two that they had, and I looked it up on the interwebs, and this one had a little bit higher rating than the other one. So I went with this to try and, I don't know, just get something in the strictly stout family, or at least labeled strictly stout. I didn't want to kind of mix flavors and things like that. Oh, we're trying it already. Ooh, that's, I don't know. That's a very
acidic.
It's like chocolate forward to me. I don't taste the acid. That's the problem that I have with a lot of these beers is like, I don't really want, and it's kind of why I wanted to pawn one off on you. I don't really want a 6-pack of it, but I'm not really willing to spend the like half the 6-pack value on one of them. So yeah.
Yeah, that's always a tough thing. Yeah, I have a local place I go to. It's called Libation Stations. I guess I'll plug them. I'm sure they'll never listen to this thing. But I like to go there. I build like a 6-pack. So people may be familiar with like Total Wine and More, which is like another place you can go to build like your own 6-packs. Sometimes they can be a little expensive, but not too bad if you just want to try. So one thing I thought was interesting about this company was like their play on the CEO Stout, because actually the CEO stands for Chocolate Espresso and Oatmeal, and that's one thing I'm not getting.
I'm wondering if it's going to open up a little bit more when it gets warmer, but like,
yeah, because I'm not getting much of a creamy from oatmeal.
So the beers that I'm mostly familiar with drinking now are the barrel aged variants of a lot of stouts or porters and stuff like that, and that changes a lot with the temperature. And I feel like this one's only 5.5% ABV. And I don't know, maybe you can answer this. Does Guinness get better with temperature, or is that something you need to drink cold?
I like it cold. I've noticed when it gets warmer, it definitely gets more bitter and drier. I think because it's dry to begin with, and I think it's what a lot of people complain about. Like it just wicks away the moisture. But I think that's what I like about it, because it is slightly bitter. It's a little bit dry, but the warmer it gets, it's not, for me, it's not a pleasant drinking beer. But I do agree with the barrel aged stuff. Once it hits about 55, 60 degrees, that seems to be the most optimal temperatures to start, drinking it.
Yeah. This I'm not. It's hard when it's cold because you lose all the flavor. It's changed already in the smell, so the smell must have been just the head. It
must have been.
But like I could drink this quick. I feel like it's decent at a cold temperature.
Yeah, it's fairly thin. It's not,
but it doesn't taste like a stout to me. Like if you would have handed me this without, I guess at the aftertaste of it, like when you breathe through your nose and like kind of let the flavor kind of sit, you get the the bitterness of like the coffee and that kind of stuff on your palate. But like if you were to blindfold me and like plug my nose, I wouldn't have I would have never thought the beer was dark. It just tastes like a very light beer.
I still got lot of coffee forward on the nose though.
Do you? I feel like my glass doesn't open up like yours does, so I don't know if it's blocking that or not. Yeah, I guess I can still smell a lot of coffee. And I feel like that was so when I first started drinking, I didn't really enjoy alcohol. You just kind of drink to get drunk, and then that's the point of it. Now that I drink to like enjoy whatever I'm drinking, whether or not I get drunk is just kind of an accident typically. But then you have a lot of abilities to really kind of discern and pick exactly what you want to drink. Don't drink something that you aren't going to enjoy. Right. So I don't typically order something like this on a menu if I see it at a place, just because like I would say for me, it's like hit or miss. It's either drinkable. This one I feel like is kind of falling in between, which I'm contradicting myself, but I feel like it's either hit or miss in that you will enjoy it or you'll hate it. And I have a very strong reaction either way. I guess the point of it was I didn't drink, I never drank coffee until I was like 35 or something. So like, I didn't even like the flavor of coffee. So now that I've been drinking coffee for so many years, I enjoy that kind of note better.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, this is made with coffee beans itself. So I mean, that definitely brings a more of a coffee front to it. Now, there's certain malts that you can use. Come back to like the home brewing side of it. There's certain malts that you can buy that will have like coffee-like flavors to it, so it may not be as strong. So like, if I were to make a stout, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit, like I picked out malts that would give me a coffee-like flavor without adding coffee to it. I think that's what's kind of turned me off a little bit on this one, because it's such a strong.
I think that's what they try and do. Like, I feel like, and this goes to like the breweries just kind of messing with you. Like they're trying to push the envelope. They're trying to be creative. They have to figure out what they can do that makes them different from everybody else, and what that is just kind of taking a risk and making something that a lot of people are gonna like, but a lot of people aren't gonna like. It's very divisive, and it's not a super easy. I don't think it's a very easy like path to follow when you're potentially going to alienate like half of your like.
It's definitely a huge risk. Yeah, like I couldn't imagine. So I know a couple not home brewers. I know a couple pro brewers, and just watch the stuff they go through and changing. But when they've hit the mark on something, like they'll keep that, and it's always in their rotation. But they'll still experiment. I think because, like you said, the competition can be pretty fierce out there. So you want to be different. You don't want to be like making the American light lager and everyone else is making. You don't want to make the same, chocolate stout or whatever that everyone else makes. You want to make something different, so you have that constant, cash flow coming in. But you still have to experiment because you want to grow as a brewer too. You don't want to pigeonhole yourself. So it's like I don't know. It'd be tough for me if I were a brewer, because I'd be the guy that would nothing would ever be the same. Cause I like to make beer and I like to drink beer.
Well, you like the challenge. You like to You like to beat like so. I think you would be, if you were to ever go into a like brewery and they were allowing you to make your own beer, you would be the guy that makes the experimental beer that still tastes good but is just weird. So it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. It's not going to be like even maybe your cup of tea, but the technical skills are going to be there, and you're going to be able to really kind of take that and kind of push like what that means for you and what that means for the brewery or whatever. And that's what you were talking to me about, like the ability to potentially go brew with some of these people because they go to your homebrew meetings. And I think that would be, even just for your personal education, I guess, in brewing, to see like what that really is. And it's like, okay, well, we just use like 100 pounds of these cheap hops because they're just going to get the alcohol content up, and then we like it has no flavor, and then we use all these ones to get flavor, and that's the kind of weirdness of that. So I think that I don't know. I think that stouts. I guess we probably should have done a Guinness, but stouts aren't really my bag. I don't really love nitrous. I like a hard bubble. I don't like a soft bubble. Like I make my own sparkling water with the thing. I push the damn thing down until it basically stops. Because it's just like I want that like bite. Otherwise, I don't feel like I'm drinking anything. That's why I think I liked Captain and Coke and things like that. But I don't drink. I never drank like straight alcohols, like not straight alcohols. Like I never really drank the fruit drinks, like a
daiquiri or something like that, maybe.
Yeah, like stuff that doesn't have like a soda base. I don't really like as much.
Okay, so you like the fizz that's in your drinks and stuff like that. Okay, I can see that. Yeah. Like I said, I do like it. I like both nitro and non-nitrogenated. I don't know if that's even a word, but patent pending on that as well too.
It tastes sweet now. I feel like the chocolate is like hitting like the top of my mouth, like as it warmed up a little bit. I'm surprised. It's changed different. Slightly. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I'm not going to not drink them.
From my point of view, I don't think I would. I don't know if I'd go out and search this one again, but I would look for something similar. So I would try to find another stout that has espresso and oatmeal in it as well, just so I have something to compare it with. Like I had this one. This one I didn't really care for, just to try something that's relatively close. Oh, it's made in Traverse City, Michigan. That's cool.
Yeah, I think that was the difference between the two that I was looking at, is that this was from the brewery that I've gone to.
Right.
So
you've been up there? That's cool.
Yeah. That one, they have really good ciders there. So that's why I was thinking like Blake's, because Blake's is another Michigan cidery, and they do a donut stout. You can't buy it in cans. It was just like a sweet. I like sweeter stuff too. I think that's kind of the thing. Obviously I liked ciders and things like that, but I like the sweeter side of a lot of the beers, and like it, my wife is into it too. So like that helps to,
sure.
to like have somebody else that is in like that I can go to breweries with and try things with, I think is a big plus. But the problem with breweries, in my opinion, is that you can't take stuff home with you unless you take a growler, but then it just lasts for like a week, and then you're like, oh well, that was fun. So I think that's
very true.
That's I guess why I really want to do this, is to like kind of find stuff that I might not have tried normally, but then to try it in this kind of thing. One of the disappointing things for me, I think, is that we're not always going to get the same beer potentially. So
no, but I think if we try your due diligence, maybe we could probably try to find something relatively close. Like let's say we continue with the stouts, and because I have a lot, you have a lot. So let's say next time let's do like a barrel aged stout. And granted, I do have something you have, but let's say I want to try something different. But as long as barrel aged and potentially still with like bourbon or whiskey or tequila or whatever, as long as it's relatively close, so then we could actually. We won't have the same experience, but at least we could at least try to describe the best we can, which is always a hard thing to do because I feel taste is very subjective, just like art. I taste certain things, you may not. But speaking of barrel age, I wanted to go back to that one because you said that you really enjoy barrel age stuff. So, what is barrel age? Like, what is the process of that? Have you ever took a deep dive into that? Because, like I said, you drink a lot more of it than I do, for sure.
Yes and no. I know. So typically they have to take a relatively high ABV beer in order to like age it. So they'll basically take that and then they'll use an old it started off with bourbon, but they're doing a lot of different stuff now. Old bourbon barrels, and they just basically store them. They pour all their beer into that bourbon barrel and then they store it for like anywhere from like 6 to like 24 months.
Oh,
The
wow.
ones that are stored for 24 months kind of lose a lot of the flavor and end up being more like bourbon than anything. So
Hmm.
it's to each their own. Like I like them somewhere in the middle. But ultimately, I think that the bourbon barrel aging process tends to take a beer that's maybe harsh and then kind of like it kind of cuts an edge into it a little bit and gives it a little bit of bourbony flavor. So if you don't like bourbon, you're probably not going to like bourbon barrel aged, but there are like rum barrel aged beers. There's tequila barrel aged beers. There's a lot of, I've never seen a gin barrel aged beer, but I feel like that
I'm
would
sure
be
someone's having it
piney.
out somewhere.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting for sure. Actually, it'd be kind of cool if you did with like a high ABV like pale ale, right? Something that's not
Yeah, it's typically a
like
darker
strong.
beer, so I
There
don't
you
know what
go.
that like. I mean, so the Founders makes one that you really like. That's it's a
Yeah.
tequila barrel aged beer. I don't really know what the starter beer is. It's like a salted something, so it basically tastes like a beer version of a margarita. I think.
Yeah.
I think that one is it's weird but good weird.
Yeah, that's what I like about it. It's just different, and the
Mhm.
salt is just weird at the end. Yeah.
But that one does not do good with warmth, which is weird.
Mm-mm.
Like it's because it's like trying to drink like a warm margarita. And I'm like, that'd be disgusting. Um, yeah, so that's I think that's basically all I know of that. I know that
Okay.
they will typically try and I think that they just play around with it, but that's a big gamble, right? Like take like
Oh, it
an
is.
entire
Mhm.
whatever gallon sized thing they're doing and then barrel age it. So like what if the beer didn't taste great like going into it and then you let it sit for another 6 months and then what happens in that 6 months? So I'm sure that they're testing it all the time, but I
Yeah.
think that would be kind of a fun thing to go on the brewery tours and ask them questions like that you actually get an idea of. My wife actually went on a brewery tour and I'm actually jealous of it in Chicago. They have the FOBAB, which is the Festival of Barrel Aged Beer. It's
Mhm.
in typically like November time, somewhere in there, and they have like 200 or 300 beers on tap. It's pretty, or
Oh,
they don't have
wow.
them on tap, but they have like basically you could pour. You go in with like tickets, and then you can get
Mhm.
whatever beer you want. It's a fun way to get to try a ton of different beers without really like having to go to all these breweries. But
Right.
there's a lot of breweries in Chicago, in or around Chicago, not really in Chicago necessarily. There's a few in Chicago, but on that trip we go out there, and one of my favorite breweries for barrel aged beers. There's three that I really like. Three Floyds. They don't have their brewery up anymore, so they're just a you have to just buy the beer from them. Like you can't go in and drink anything, so they won't have like random stuff on tap, which is kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
Then there's the Revolution. Revolution is the
Mhm.
one I think I gave you a few of those. They have
Yeah.
a lot of very sweet beers that they've barrel aged and have messed around with and done a lot of stuff. And that's the one my wife actually went to and did a brewery tour of. And
Okay.
like it was really cool because they like kind of took them around in the back and showed them all their stuff. And
Mhm.
that was like one of their main breweries. And one of their selling features was that their beer, once it's bottled, I don't know, at some point in the process, it never gets warm. Like they keep it in their coolers and then ship it in a cooled truck to wherever they're gonna like sell it
Oh, it's
to.
temp
And
control.
I'm like,
Pretty much the whole process.
but then like the person that's getting it is going to just put it on the shelf somewhere. They're not going to put it in their cooler because it's going to take up way too much space. So like if you ever see it on the like store shelf, it's like, well, that kind of dropped in the process there. But at least it's not going like up and down, up and down, up and down, because I feel like
Yeah.
that can potentially kill a beer. And that's another thing you have to kind of worry about with those like high ABV beers, barrel aged or otherwise. You have the potential to get like a lot of sediment in it. So like you might
Yeah.
have like just stuff floating in the bottom, and it's kind of gross and hard to like chew through.
Yes, some of that's just just yeast, which is typically fine for you, but some people are like sensitive to it, just like people that have problems with like gluten and stuff like that. So you may have some weird, you know, gastro issues because of that. But
My face will turn
um,
red depending on how much gluten
well,
or yeast maybe. I don't really know. So that was another reason I like started drinking Bud Light, because I noticed that I didn't get hangovers from it, which I think is like a gluten intolerance, and or I can't drink enough of it to get that sick, if that makes any sense. Like it's basically half water. I don't know, it's just easier for me to drink, but I definitely noticed that my hangovers were less. And then with this, typically in the night of drinking, the more variety I have, the less I feel good. Like my stomach is just like, oh, what did you do?
Yeah, and well, they're like I said, they're heavier beers, especially with the barrel aged beers. I mean, you're talking what, 11 to 18% beers. I mean, that's just heavy all the way around, and it depends what they put into it. Like if it's a milk stout, you have the lactose that's in there. If it's oatmeal, then you have a lot of oatmeal in there. So there's the different varieties of stouts out there. Which I was kind of curious. I did a quick search, like what were the popular ones of last year, and I come across with like a short list. I'm not going to read them off, but like a few of them on there, like I've had, and some I've never even heard of. Like, I mean, I've had like Guinness, of course. I've had Death's Tar, had that one before. And the rest on the list, I've never even heard of. Like, I've never heard of Black Tuesday. I've never heard of, like, just Imperial Stout. Like, I didn't know, like, Imperial Stout is a style of stout. Like, I didn't know there was a company or a brand out there just called Imperial Stout, which just seems very odd to me.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, I didn't either. Bomb, never heard of that one either. And Mino and Tom, which I said I wasn't going to read them all, but I just read them all. So I apologize for lying.
I don't mind.
But that's how it goes. Yeah, news to me too. I do enjoy stouts. For what they are. I feel like Mike introduced me to barrel aged stouts. I forgot when, 4 years ago or whatever. Like I said, they're just hard to find down here, and I try to find them when
I was introduced to them about that long ago. Like we didn't really know of them until I lived in my house that the
other one.
Right, in the other house, because like we could walk to the bar and then they like, because like when you look at
don't want to give away where you live.
You're driving, when you look at a menu and you're driving, it's like, well, I can have one of these, and then they bring you like a 16-ounce glass of something that's like 15% ABV. You're like, cool, well, I guess we're staying here for another 2 hours, and then you forget, and then you get another one. And it's like, all right, well, so the days of that are no longer with us. But I think that in general, I want to try a bunch of stuff. So I think that one thing that we're seeing at least a little bit more are like half pours, or at least like instead of a 10 ounce, you get a 5 ounce or whatever. And the ones I was like the breweries, and maybe not like the restaurants and that have the beer, but the breweries themselves will just charge you half the price instead of charging you like $4 for a 5 ounce pour and $6 for a 10 ounce pour. Because then my cheap, frugal brain is like, well, I'm getting a half one for free, so I might as well just get the bigger one. But then it's like, okay, well, now I don't feel good. But so
no, you're very right. I love the fact that breweries are doing that, because now I get a chance to try more beers. Because believe it or not, there's a few breweries I've gone to that still aren't doing flights. They will do like a couple 5 ounce pours for like half the price of, well, like you said, a pint or whatever. And I was like, oh, I'll just do that then. I don't know why they're not doing it yet. I know we're getting close on time here, but so Mike asked me, like, if I were to build like a recipe, what recipe would I build? So I put one together. It's probably not the best thing in the world, but I would like to try it myself. I probably wouldn't do a 5-gallon batch. I'd probably do like a 3-gallon batch. But anyways, for a 5-gallon batch, it would be 11 pounds of pale malt, which basically would be my base malt. So that would give me like the bulk of my sugars. This would give me, the biscuits and stuff like that, the notes that I want. Then I would use roasted barley, about 12 ounces of that. That would give me my coffee, the dark brown colors, and make it a little dry. I would use, I hate trying to say this word, carafa too, I guess I say it. But it's more for the like roasted flavors. Caramel.
Carafa. It's a lot of A's
that one. I know. Caramel malt 60L. The L stands for level bonds, which basically just means color. Just in case you didn't know that. So that would give you like a little bit of sweetness to it. So it would give you like the caramel notes. I've never had one give me red hues, but it's usually more of a golden color, and of course chocolate for the cocoa and the coffee flavors. And then for the hops,
chocolate malt, not just chocolate. Okay.
Yeah, chocolate malt. Sorry. Yeah, apologize.
No, it's
yeah,
fine.
Dude, I'm trying to read the list here. Like,
yeah, I was confused. I'm looking at the list too, and I was like, I didn't realize there was a chocolate malt. Like, so I guess you don't know, but like, I guess I don't know if that's what they're using to like when they say this has chocolate, espresso, and oatmeal. Like, what is the oatmeal flavors coming from in that?
So the oatmeal would be flaked oats, which I've used that before in other beers. So you just buy flaked oats and you just throw it in there. Okay. You just extract it from there.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail your.
No, you're fine. Nope. And then for hops, I would use Pacific Gem, which would give you that woody oaky taste, which most traditional stouts I've noticed have. It's only half an ounce,
so
that'd be my. I don't think so. I don't get. Well, now I kind of do.
I just was gonna say, I'm like, holy shit! Now that you said that.
Now that it's kind of warmed up a lot, but I definitely get. You know what it almost smells like? I'm gonna go off topic here for a second. It almost smells like my beer I have on tap right now, my Schwartz beer. That woody, smoky kind of smell. Anyways, so use that Pacific Gem, and then I would use Fuggle, which would be again for
You're
more.
A Fuggle.
You're a Fuggle. More of the woody aromatics, and then Cascade for citrus and spice. That'd be like the last 10 minutes or so. And that would be the basic recipe that I would do if I were to make my own stout style.
And what is the US 05 yeast? Is that just a normal?
So that's just dry yeast. That's the one I've always gravitated to. I can't justify spending $13 on a liquid pack when I can spend $13 and buy like 5 of the dry yeasts, which will last for years, where liquid yeast would last for like a year.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I think that I get I get jealous, not jealous so much as like I'm happy to get to try a lot of the beers that he gets to brew, and I think that that's kind of what sparked the interest in this is like it's like I can go downstairs and like, hey, when we're doing whatever the amber ale or whatever, I'm like, hey, let's go try a blueberry honey ale, and we both have stuff that he's brewed from that style, and I think that that's going to be kind of nice, but right now it's a wintry thing, and that's something we can drink during the summer. I think ultimately this podcast is we're going to try and limit it to 30 minutes. I think we're at 32 minutes now, but it's our first attempt. I think we did a pretty good job. But I think that this was fun. I think that I would definitely enjoy. Plus, they're get easier the more we do and the more we drink. I think that makes it a little bit easier too.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said in episode 0, the intro, whatever you want to call it. If there are any comments, questions, concerns, any topics you want to talk about or have us talk about, let us know. I'll try to get the email up and going here shortly. Other than that, that's all I have. Mike, how about yourself?
I do not have anything else. Hopefully you guys can enjoy a pint with your pals. And I'm Mike, and I will talk to, and it's Jeremy, and have a
cheers.
Have a good one. Cheers.
Yep. Good night, guys.